up on the screen or? Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is Peter Villegas, Chairman of the California State Athletic Commission. I'd like to welcome you. We have a special meeting today on October 15th, 2025, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Foster, can you take roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Commissioner Hendrickson? I see Commissioner Hendrickson, and he's
We see him.
Here.
yeah, okay. Dr. Williams?
Here. Present.
Okay. Commissioner Gruelle?
Present.
Commissioner DeMars?
Present.
Commissioner Fiore?
Present.
Chairman Villegas. Let's see. All right,
Present.
sir, we have six members here that are present at the locations on the meeting agenda.
Thank you. And how many do we have listening in, operator?
Are you referring to attendees? If so,
Yes,
70.
yes.
You have 70.
70. Okay, thank you. Out of respect for everyone's time, I'm not going to make any open remarks. I want to get straight to the issue for the special meeting. So that is to discuss possible action regarding the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act, HR 4624. We formed, at our previous meeting, we had the discussion and we formed a subcommittee with Commissioners Gruelle and DeMars, and we have come back to respond to some of the issues that were raised. And at today's meeting, we'll continue that discussion. Mr. Foster, do you want to kick us off with the discussion?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. The subcommittee's met multiple times, and I think Commissioner Gruelle or Commissioner DeMars, you guys could start with just presenting your findings to the group, and I can provide any information.
Sure. Well, thank you, Andy. And I first want to express my sincere gratitude to Commissioner DeMars, who brings a lot of firsthand, real-life experience as a competitive combat sports athlete and someone who's had a lot of experience with family and friends navigating this professional sport. I also want to thank Andy Foster, everyone we've met with from the boxing and mixed martial arts communities who contributed to this discussion. I've had a long discussion with Todd Phillips, aka LL Cool J. This is something that definitely is being talked about amongst the boxing community, and everyone's collective insights were really invaluable. Through the process, we gained a deeper understanding of our commission's role in the areas we could also improve on in the combat sports came out during these discussions. Our primary focus remains, and I think always must remain, on the safety and well-being of the athletes, ensuring their voices are heard and prioritized. The subcommittee's findings, which align with our commission's recommendations today, reflect our commitment to constructive improvements. We did hear a lot of impassioned comments from the community about individuals in the sport, and I would like to just say that I don't think we're here to critique individuals in these governing bodies or organizations. We're here to ensure the best possible environment for our athletes and the long-term health of the sport. But we do respect all the diverse opinions that were shared, and I'm assuming we'll be hearing from some of those voices today. But we're trying, Commissioner DeMars and myself and Andy tried to focus on constructive steps forward. And I know we look forward to hearing from everyone's comments. Before I keep going, I want to pause and give Commissioner DeMars a chance to check in before we go through our findings.
Oh, I was just going to say, we met with a lot of people in addition to in fact, most recently we had a meeting yesterday that didn't get onto the background information. did you want to go through what was in the meeting minutes, in the meeting materials, assuming that everybody didn't read it? Like, just give the high level view of that?
I thought maybe we give a high level view. There was a document that everyone received as part of the packet. I think we broke down some of these areas. We can kind of go back and forth because Commissioner Marge, you bring a very unique perspective on some of these items. And then I know that Chairman Villegas, we're going to get to a point where we want to make, now in hindsight, probably 2 motions for the commission to consider. So I want to check with you first, Chairman, on how you want to proceed.
Yeah, go ahead and please give the high-level overview of what the findings were, and then we can proceed with the recommendations.
Okay.
I could
Go ahead.
Okay. I can start with the things everybody agreed on. So everyone agreed that the idea of having health insurance during training camps was a good thing. Everybody that we talked to, no one said it was a bad thing. No one said that having minimum payment per round was a bad thing. Everybody thought it was good. No one had disagreed that there needs to be some changes in the way that sanctioning bodies were run. No one said that everything is perfect. No, it's all on the side of the angels and nothing needs to change. So all of those things, every single person we talked to is in agreement. The things that there was some disagreement on, there were people very passionate on both sides thinking, if this happens, there will be a monopoly and this will be a bad thing. And there were other people saying, no, if this happens, the sport of boxing will grow and people will have more options and it will be a good thing. So there was not a clear consensus on that. So that's up to people to make their own decisions on. Some people were concerned about the length of the contracts and the transparency of the pay. So there was some split on that. And I will just say very emphatically again that I am against the pregnancy test in there. As probably the only person on this call who has competed while pregnant, trained while pregnant. I think it's really out of line that be part of it. So I think that's kind of a summary. Is there any other things you wanted to add?
No, I think that was dead on. Again, safety, fairness, integrity, sanctioning bodies, all these things were common themes that came up over and over again. And I do agree on the testing requirement being just something that has no place in these regulations.
What was the issue on the length of the contract? What was the?
It's a great question. I'm Commissioner Mark open to this a lot. We had a nice conversation yesterday with a promoter, and this also came up quite a bit.
The concern was that often when people sign these contracts initially, they are relatively young, relatively inexperienced. They're signing an exclusive contract for 3 to 5 years. And to be quite frank, you have someone who is not having a lot of resources and young and not very experienced on one end of the table, on the other side of the table, a multi-billion-dollar corporation with a suite of lawyers. So that was the concern, that those individuals may get taken advantage of, and also that the length of it, that if you're doing really well after 2 or 3 years, maybe that would be a good thing to be negotiated. So that was concern.
Okay, thank you. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any questions for Commissioner Gruelle or DeMars? Hearing none. Any questions on the medical? Everything was positive on the medical issues, on the health and health concerns?
And I would defer to Commissioner Williams, but everybody we spoke to feels that this raises at least the floor for boxing around the country, with health standards and pay and protocols that mirror a lot of what we already do in California. So I think this is going to help boxers around the country. But on the health protocols, I would really defer to Vice Chair Williams.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I felt that way and stated that at our previous meeting. It sounds like when you've met with other stakeholders, that's been pretty much a uniform opinion, what I'm hearing in terms of your meeting with other stakeholders. So I think that's the case. I do have a question for the subcommittee, Dr. DeMars as well as Commissioner Gruelle. Have you guys come up with any recommendations on like a middle ground, a pragmatic middle ground relative to the issue of pregnancy testing, where you can kind of, respect civil liberties, but still not, I guess, conflict with other, state athletic commissions and the language in the, in the current bill?
I
I'm
don't
not
think we've
one.
got into anything alternative wise. I think we both shared a strong feeling that it was just inappropriate. I will also say that I learn a lot through these discussions because I'm used to the California way we do things. That's really the only way I know how to kind of approach these. And what I've learned over and over again is a lot of states have practices, quite frankly, I find, abhorrent and predatory and how they treat the athletes. And so I don't know sort of state by state if there are better practices, but I feel that in California, we tend to have among the best, if not the best practices. And I just couldn't think of anything that came out during these conversations where this seemed like something that was on the minds of anyone we talked about. It kind of comes out of left field. And, for me personally, it was a bit of a head scratcher.
I understand the privacy concerns regarding the pregnancy test. Dr. Williams, is there any concerns from a health concern on combat or engagement while being pregnant?
I mean, the rationale would have to potentially or theoretically do with protecting fetal and maternal safety. But as Dr. DeMars mentioned, I think that that's a theoretical rationale more so than, what you see in practice. And I certainly understand the right to privacy issues, the issues of treating males and females differently. And so, I think there are some commissions that still require a negative pregnancy test. I think, there may be some middle ground and just informed consent model, counseling, and maybe voluntary or confidential. But I don't know the answer to this. I don't know if there is an answer to this. I know it's been something that's been a subject of debate. I don't think there's a need for us to try to solve this problem. I was just questioning whether or not there had been any opinion specific to that issue outside of saying, hey, we don't support, mandatory testing.
Got you. Thank you. Regarding female fighters and fights, I just want to be clear. There's consistency regarding the length of the rounds. Correct? There's no recommendation to go 3-minute rounds for females, or is that a state by state issue, Andy? Or
we did not delve into, I think, those types of kind of point by point recommendations. I defer to Andy. I think there are some things what I'm seeing that the community of interested parties are passionate about that, quite frankly, aren't really items that are addressed at all in the Muhammad Ali Act in its current or perhaps future version. There's also things that our commission can do on its own. And I'm going to make a recommendation of, that's separate and apart today from the House resolution that goes into that. But Andy, did any of these items that didn't come up during our discussions need to come up now?
Well, I mean, I think we can save that piece, but to answer the chairman's question, the subcommittee didn't get into the 2-minute versus 3-minute round debate. I think California has the best solution on that is we just do what the contract says. And if the females want to fight 3-minute rounds, they've always been allowed to here. I found it troubling in a different state recently that you guys all saw that the fighter's being stripped of her belt as the world champion because she refuses to fight 2-minute rounds. It was very troubling when the state had authorized that. So it's very troubling. So that should not be happening.
okay.
I mean,
Oh, there was one more thing that I want to make sure is in the record that everybody was in agreement on, and that was the cost of living increases. That since the bill last bill hadn't been reauthorized in 30 years, that if you put in a minimum per round or a minimum payment, that ought to be subject to cost of living increases. What's the minimum now shouldn't be the same minimum 30 years from now.
So, Chairman, maybe that's a good chance. Maybe I should read the motions we discussed, and then maybe from a format standpoint, we might need to restate these once we've had public comment. If it's okay with you, but maybe that would be helpful because that was the main thing that we landed on time and time again. And so I was going to move that the commission support an amended version of the Muhammad Ali Revival Act contingent upon inclusion of a mechanism for a state level cost of living adjustment to both the minimum purse and minimum insurance requirements. And that this amendment would ensure the protections for athletes keeping pace with economic conditions over time. So that was
Okay,
our recommendation.
can we hold on that? Because I want to make sure we got everything you mentioned, everything that everybody agreed upon, correct?
Yeah.
And so you talked about the pros of this proposal. Were there any, cons where everybody, was like, no
There was
way?
a lot of
this is not
cons.
Okay.
Cons, again, I don't want to speak for Andy and Commissioner DeMars. The cons really were a lot about, people's perceptions of the individuals in the sport today, perceived historic feelings, pro and con of the UFC and Zuffa and those organizations, also the perceived kind of pros and cons of some of the practices of the governing bodies. Now, some of this stuff is like, just kind of open, fair market, how professional sports work. And, what is the role of the commission to get in and sort of tinker and try to pick winners and losers? I think that conversation, we kind of quickly got past that as not really being germane to this discussion. But that was where a lot of the passions were. People who felt that over the history of the UFC, there might have been fighters who, felt that they were not given a fair deal. On the government
So
side,
just on that point,
yes, sir.
Commissioner, the concerns were more personal as opposed to the structure of the proposal. Is that accurate?
That's what I understood to be the case.
Okay.
I don't want to.
All right. Thank you.
On the other side, there were some similar discussions around the ranking bodies, but there are some issues in there that we should address. There are some things that came out through these discussions on how the current ranking bodies conduct their business that are problematic. I just don't think those things, and I think collectively, you don't think those things should be addressed in the House resolution, but they could be addressed by this commission. And through Andy's good work, he could come back to us with some recommendations at a future meeting on how to address some of these problems. And, one of the things you just mentioned, for example, around the belt being stripped, Andy, I always thought that to be the champion, you had to beat the champion. And I've learned, actually, that's not the case. To be the champion, you have to win a fight, but you could have that title stripped away sometimes for unfair reasons. We learned, for example, not to dive too much into this part, but we might as well. I always thought that you earned your championship belt. I never understood that you had to buy your belt, and that sometimes these fighters make less than the belt costs. So there are a lot of those types of practices. I've also, learned about, what are the things that this commission provides at these fights at very minimal costs. And then what the fighters and the productions have to pay to have this overlapping set of people providing very little value just to sort of sit ringside because their belt is on the line. And so there's lots of things that we could, I think, work on to improve how these organizations currently treat these fighters and these promotions while here in California, but that's something that would lies outside of the Muhammad Ali Act.
Thank you. Before we go into any recommended motion, I do want to say that I did speak directly to Mr. White and Mr. Campbell from UFC. They answered my questions and my concerns, and I also spoke to Lonnie Ali, Muhammad Ali's wife, to get her view and position on this proposal. And we had a good discussion, and she was in favor of it. So I just want to be transparent in my discussions that I had. But before we go on the motion, any final questions or issues that the commission would like to raise for my fellow commissioners? Anything that you need to have answered before the subcommittee goes into the motion? Hearing none.
I had a question. And maybe Dr. Williams knows this or someone else. We received a letter because we also, of course, accepted written comment on this. And someone said that failed drug tests don't need to be reported to the commission, that they could just be reported to the promoter. Is that correct?
Andy?
I can address that, Commissioner DeMars. I think the letter that you're referring to is from Pat English, who's the attorney. Anytime a fighter is licensed in the jurisdiction, so if they're licensed in California, the promoter will give the results to the license, to the commission. There's no requirement if the person's not licensed for the promoter to give the drug test to the commission. There's no requirement. So it'd be like if you have a stable of fighters and they're not licensed, yeah, there's no requirement there. But that's with any of our promotions. That's not unique to this. It just is. It's, if they're not licensed, they don't have to provide it to us.
But if they're not licensed, they're not fighting, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think what he was referring to was out of competition testing, which is widely done already and is basically essentially the model that the UFC uses, and they monitor their athletes that aren't currently licensed, that are not in, like they're getting ready to fight, but they're not actively like fighting. They have a year-round program. And to my knowledge, they're the only group in the world that does anything like this. And once they started, I'm sure you guys will remember, once they started this program back in 2014, I believe it was, did you notice how the number of therapeutic use exemptions decreased substantially, almost like non-existent? And then California banned TUEs for testosterone and so on and so forth. That's sort of where we are. And the UFC's program has greatly decreased the amount of performance PEDs. It still happens, but it's decreased the amount of PEDs in the sport.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Commissioner DeMars?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, and then finally, before I turn it over back to the subcommittee, I just want to be clear to everyone. There is a choice for the individual to either be a part of the new body or not, correct? So every fighter, every athlete has a choice to participate in that organization or not. So it's not mandatory that everybody join, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's correct. That's our understanding. That is our
Okay.
complete understanding. And when speaking with many of the business sides of these promotions, this is not something that is going to happen with a snap of the finger. This is, some estimations, going to take, many, many years to really start seeing how these things come together. And you could even see in a real time promoters thinking through how they're going to adjust their current business dealings to face this new reality. And most were pretty excited to see what is possible. I will say there was there's one, this lifts the floor, right? This doesn't touch the ceiling. This lifts the floor. And the way this legislation is written, it does advantage larger actors in the current landscape. It just does. And there may be some smaller promotions that can never achieve some of the things they're laying out. But as we went through this, and speaking with some of the promoters that California partners with, we don't see these folks as being put at a disadvantage. If anything, some of these folks are going to actually have a lot more opportunities to do what they do really well, just based on how they're currently so healthy with lots of fighters under contract, even more so than the folks coming out of Zuffa Sports. And so I don't think anything that we're talking about today is going to put our promoters at a competitive disadvantage, but it's going to take time to get there. There was one item that did come up during our discussions, which we hope folks will look at, is that there is, as part of the UBO, a requirement to have a performance facility. And for those who have ever spent time in Nevada at the UFC's facility, it is impressive. It's probably something that looks more like what Commissioner Hendricks sees when he visits professional football players or folks in other sports. It's very different looking than the traditional boxing gym that we're kind of used to seeing. It's our understanding that Zuffa Boxing will be putting their performance center in Florida. We do want to encourage and hope all these organizations that they do partner with local gyms here in California, so that our young athletes are not put at a disadvantage because all the training that they would need is going to somehow now be in a faraway state. And we had a lot of this discussion yesterday, and it sounds to me like today there's already gyms that are partnering with high profile promoters, and those gyms, there is no standard in the legislation on what a performance center is, but I'm assuming the commission can come back with some recommendations on how to make sure that our gyms would qualify as performance centers under this legislation. And that would, again, be good for California and get California fighters who want to stay locally and train.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I welcome and open the floor for any motions.
So our first motion, and this was with the help of Andy and our legal team, and I forward this to you, Andy, if you want to, back to you this morning, if you want to share with folks and put on the screen. I first, in motion 1, support HR 4624 with amendment. I move that the commission adopt a position of support if amended on HR 4624, the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act, contingent upon inclusion of a mechanism for a state-level cost of living adjustment to both the minimum purse and the minimum insurance requirements. This amendment ensures that protections for athletes keep pace with economic conditions over time. Full stop.
Thank you.
And then there's a second motion we can talk about here shortly, but that's the motion as it relates to HR 4624.
Okay, let's do the first motion first. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Any questions, comments from my commissioners, fellow commissioners? Any questions from or comments from the public? Operator or Patricia, do we have folks?
Yes, this is the moderator, and we have folks. So I want to start with Nick Kahn. People will have 2 minutes to speak. I'll give a 15-second warning. And Nick Kahn, you should see a. Oh, go ahead.
Operator, before how many do we have
We have 89 now.
that want to speak?
Oh, we have 89 attendees. Right
Okay.
now, if people want to speak, they may raise their hand. For people who have called in, to raise your hand, you press *3. We are displaying instructions. And our first speaker is Nick Kahn. Just finding him in the list here. So Nick, if you see
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much, everyone, for providing me with the opportunity to speak today to express my public support for the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act. I currently serve as president of WWE, and I hold a board seat for TKO, the parent company of both WWE, UFC, and a number of other entities. I'm also a representative of Zuffa Boxing, our new professional boxing promotion. I speak to you as someone who's been around the business of boxing for many years. I had the great experience of managing James Lights Out Tony, as well as Manny Pacquiao on Manny's ascent to the apex of boxing. In my prior role as co-head of television at CAA, I also had the great fortune of representing boxing broadcast talent like Jim Lampley, Larry Merchant, Max Kellerman, Joe Tessitore, and Mark Kriegel. My experience in boxing, I believe, has given me a front row seat to see a business that is stagnant on its best day and precipitously degenerating on its normal days. It's a fragmented business driven by organizers who lack any modern sense of driving media rights dollars, gate revenue, sponsorship, merchandise, or any of the other revenue categories that drive athlete pay in every major sport outside of boxing. Outside of Zuffa's recent announcement that Paramount CBS will be our home, and outside of Netflix deals driven by us and our partners at Zuffa Boxing, not one of the major media conglomerates in the United States shows boxing. HBO got out, Showtime got out, ESPN got out, because the current system leads to a series of one-off events with organizers that are clueless about building fighters and their stories in the modern world of media. As the chairman pointed out, with all of this said, we're not looking to eliminate or change any of the existing provisions of the original Ali Act.
15-second
If
warning.
fighters want to continue with the current setup, no problem. What we're proposing is an alternative system, a unified system. Fighters will have the choice to stick with what is or to try something new. More importantly, as a resident of California for the last 28 years, we hope this will bring more fights to California with fighter safety and
I'm sorry,
increasing
your time is
respect.
up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you.
All right, our next request for comment is from John McCarthy. John, if you see a prompt to unmute, go ahead and click on that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John McCarthy, and I have been a part of professional combat sports for over 30 years. I want to state that I have no financial interest in this amendment at all, but many of the people you're going to be hearing from today do have a financial interest in keeping this amendment from passing. The Revival Act does not in any way change the Ali Act that was established in '96. It is simply an addition that allows boxers to have options in how they decide to pursue their professional career. Options are always good. Options give people choices, alternatives, possibilities, opportunities. Not one of those things is bad for the athlete. There are many sections in this amendment associated with the health and safety of the boxer, and that's super important. Higher medical standards, MRI scans. The UBO at a minimum must provide 3 ringside physicians who continuously are present during the actual bout. That's huge because many times you get the doctors going in the back. They have to be there for the bout. There's medical insurance, like you've talked about, that covers the boxer for injuries sustained during training. Every one of those sections brings a greater health and safety for the boxer. The UBO providing facilities for the boxers as far as training and rehabilitation. The cost savings in that area alone for the boxer can be very substantial. And as you said, when you take a look at the PI that is in Las Vegas, it's an incredible facility. On top of this, the boxers, and I'm going to say this because it's the truth, will no longer be robbed of their money for sanctioning fees, ranking placements, or that belt that they work so hard to attain. All of those fees are
15-second
eliminated
warning.
with the UBO. All right, in closing, another option is only a positive for the boxers. Many people believe that boxers make millions of dollars. They are correct that some do, but the majority never come close to that kind of money, and many struggle to make ends meet. Give the boxers an option. Any boxer who wishes to continue with the system that is in place can do so, but right now, giving boxers another option is what's best for their careers. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
All right. The next request for comment is from Chris Levin. Chris, one moment while I find you in my list. All right, Chris, you should see a request to unmute. Go ahead and click on that.
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners. So my name is Chris Lieben, and I fought in the UFC for 10 years. I think I have the most middleweight fights ever. So I worked with the UFC for a long time, and I currently work as a referee and judge for both MMA and boxing. I think puts me in a unique position, having seen these different sides of the sport. And what I can say is that, you know, from my first day on The Ultimate Fighter, I went from being somebody that nobody knew, just a regular Joe, to not being able to walk down the mall without getting stopped every 20 feet. I mean, the UFC changed my life overnight. I think there's no denying the level of promotion that they're capable of, and what they can do if they decide to get involved in boxing. From what I understand, this sounds like an option and a choice, and I think more options and more choices is always a better thing. So where boxing is right now, I would love to see this for boxing, not just for the sport of boxing, but for the athletes. I'd love to see more fighters getting more contracts, getting more notoriety, being on TV more. It's only going to bring more eyeballs to the sport and make it a better deal for the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next request for comment is from Dr. Daniel Eichner. And one moment, Dr. Eichner, as I find you in my list. All right, Dr. Eichner, you should see a request to unmute. Go ahead and click on that.
Yes, I have. Thank you. Chairman Villegas and commissioners, thank you very much for taking my call. I appreciate your time. I'm Dr. Daniel Eichner. I'm the president and laboratory director of the Sports Medicine Research and Testing Laboratory. We are one of 2 WADA accredited laboratories in the United States, and we currently do testing for all the major professional leagues, including many state athletic commissions like yours. I'm in support of the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act, especially as it pertains to the increased anti-doping provisions that have been put forward. My career has been devoted to detecting and researching prohibited substances. These are unethical practices that possess unique risks in combat sports, more so than in other sports. The requirement for a UBO to adopt a modern, out-of-competition, no-notice testing program is critical. What I've seen in other promotions is that some individuals are able to delay their licensure until very close to the fight time, and therefore they are not accessible for detection for performance-enhancing drugs. So they can actually not get licensed straight away and therefore not in a pool for testing, and this is a huge issue. I know that any increased anti-doping measures comes with a cost, and they can be significant. However, any organization that seeks to be recognized as a unified boxing organization needs to be prepared to put best-in-class practices in place. This is critical for the boxers to make sure they have a fair playing chance to compete, but also importantly, that they are competing without the risk of being harmed from an unethical individual on the other side. So without this no-notice, random or targeted testing program, it's very difficult to ensure that.
15-second warning.
I support this act, and I ask the California State Athletic Commission to do so too. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right, the next request for comment is from Dr. Rudy Mondragon. Rudy, one moment while I find you in my list. All right, Rudy, you should see a request to unmute. And Dr. Mondragon, it sounds like you are unmuted. All right, we'll try that one more time. Doctor, there you go. You're
Hello?
unmuted.
All right. Thank you so much, commissioners, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Rudy Mondragon, a research professor at LMU, Loyola Marymount University. My remarks draw from my research and a UCLA policy brief I led on boxer compensation and policy recommendations for California. From a research standpoint, I want to address the provision in the Revival Act that establishes a federal minimum per round payment and medical coverage. This represents an important step toward providing for the first time baseline compensation protections for boxers. However, without a mechanism to adjust for inflation, the minimum risks becoming outdated. I recommend indexing the federal minimum to the consumer price index so compensation remains consistent in real economic terms, specifically for fighters competing in 4, 6, and 8 round bouts. The minimum purse should automatically adjust every 2 years with a review every 5 to assess regional cost of living and industry standards. The TKO pay schedule released earlier this year raises questions about the labor force being contracted. 10-round fighters are projected to earn $20,000 to $750,000 depending on rankings and titles. Our research found that in 2021, California boxers earned between $1,000 and $1.5 million for a 10-round fight, with a median purse of $20,000. These figures underscore the need to standardize baselines that protect fighters' ability to negotiate their value in the markets, not create purse caps. Minimums are especially critical for 4, 6, and 8 round fights and fighters who form the backbone of boxing's labor force. Our research shows that nearly 84% of all fights in California between 2013 and 2021 were 4, 6, and 8 round bouts. My comments reflect my research.
15-second warning.
The lowest paid boxers. Investing in better minimums and inflation adjustments will improve the lives of these fighters, while creating caps will further entrench inequality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rudy.
All right, the next request for comment is from Harrison Whitman, and Harrison has called in, so one moment while I find him. All right, so Harrison Whitman, you should see a prompt to unmute, and to unmute yourself, you should press *6.
Hi, I'd like to thank the California State Athletic Commission for providing me the opportunity to speak today and express my support for the act. I have worked as an attorney in professional boxing for over 10 years. During my time in the sport, I've seen young boxers struggle to earn ends meet, competing in initial bouts, others who sustain injury in grueling training camps for their bouts for which they have no medical coverage, and I've unfortunately seen others who abuse inconsistent anti-doping protocols. The Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act addresses all of these issues. First, as discussed earlier, it establishes a national minimum payment per round, and it also establishes a national minimum of $25,000 for health insurance coverage for injuries suffered in bouts for fighters. But the creation of the Unified Boxing Organization addresses additional issues. First, it provides or requires insurance coverage for boxers during training camp, not just the actual bout, where many injuries are often sustained. There's enhanced pre-fight medical examinations, and as just discussed, 24/7, 365 anti-doping program with no notice testing. All of these are important improvements and enhancements to the well-being of the boxers. In closing, I do support this act because it creates the needed medical and financial protections, and the Unified Boxing Organizations likewise create opportunities for boxers to choose from. If a boxer prefers to stay in the old system, the traditional system of boxing, he or she is free to do so. The new organizations simply provide more opportunities, which is inherently a good thing. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
All right, our next request for comment is from Eric Hamidi. Eric, you should see a prompt to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to express my lack of support for this bill because I think there's a lot of long-term impacts that
Derek?
This is the moderator. Eric, we seem to have lost you. It shows that you're unmuted, but we're
Can you
not.
hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Hello? Okay, so this addresses concerns such as long-term effects. For instance, the UBOs have exclusive contracts. You have to consider why is it that they want an exclusive contract. And for me, I believe that with their long-term plan of developing boxing, that Zuffa boxing is the only one that matters, and fighters' lack of knowledge, then eventually the Zuffa boxing organization is going to be the only one.
Eric, you've cut
Okay.
out again.
I think we got his position though,
Okay.
correct? He was against the proposal. Okay. Keep
Yeah.
going, moderator.
Okay,
Thank
so
you,
our
Eric.
next request for comment is from Forrest Griffin. And Forrest, just one moment while I find you. All right, Forrest, you should see a prompt to unmute yourself. Okay, Forrest, if you see a prompt to unmute, go ahead and click on it. All right, Forrest, we'll give you one more try. All right, we'll come back to you, Forrest. Raise your hand if you figure your audio out. We'll go to Gabrielle next. Gabrielle, you should see a prompt to unmute. Go ahead and click on it. And Gabrielle, are you able to?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gabriel. I'm a 17-year-old amateur boxer, and I hope to one day be a professional. This bill is a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face to fighters who fought so hard for all act protections, to independent sanctioning bodies, and to Muhammad Ali himself. How dare they put his name on a bill meant to circumvent the Ali Act? Muhammad Ali would never stand for this. His grandson, Nico Ali Walsh, said, "As an Ali, I'm completely against altering the Muhammad Ali Act. My grandfather fought for it to protect fighters from getting screwed over. This is screwing us over. The UBO model is a circumvention for TKO in the UFC. Under this UBO model, fighters signed to the UBO would waive the right to a free market with co-promotion, which is a restraint of trade. They would waive the right to financial transparency in non-coercive contracts and their right to independent ranking with the title not being controlled by a promoter, along with other rights the Ali Act provides. If this passes, they will monopolize the boxing market, and fighters will have no choice but to sign into this exploitative system to make a name for themselves. Dana White said himself he doesn't need the Ali Act change to run Zuffa boxing. He needs these changes to exploit fighters and monopolize boxing. If boxing really needed reviving, how come they were able to sell Allegiant Stadium with a record-breaking gate under this current system? When they say revive, what they really mean is they want boxing under one promotional entity that forces you to wear their fight gear and fight exclusively for their title, and if you don't do what they say, they can sideline you or cut you. I'd also like to add, you don't need to change the Ali Act to establish minimums. California already established a $200 minimum last year without rewriting federal law. It's being used to distract from the real purpose, giving TKO and the UBO system monopoly control over boxing. When you control 90% of the revenue of a sport, which equates to $1 billion yearly, and give 16% of that to the minority of total
15-second warning.
that make up your promotion, how is that good for the majority of fighters? When your own group of fighters is reaching a settlement for $375 million, it shows something is wrong. MMA fighters are pushing for protections with the All Expansion Act because of this UBO model. If I haven't already made it clear that their goal is to monopolize, I'll quote Dana White correctly. He said
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
All right, our next request for comment is from S. Sadiq Ahmed. Ahmed, you should see a prompt to unmute. All right, Ahmed, we'll try you again.
Operator, before, just so we know, how many more people want to make comment?
Hold on. Looks like 12.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hello, apologies about the earlier thing. To the panelists and attendees here, I'd like to take this time to express my strongest opposition to this act. Last month, at a commission meeting, many concerns were raised regarding this act, and it just feels like none of those concerns are being properly addressed. I turn 25 next month, and I want to be able to enjoy watching boxing for the years to come. And I worry that this act is going to negatively impact the sport. I sincerely want to ask everyone to just take the time and reconsider their support for this bill and to address the concerns that had been brought up in September. I am genuinely asking you all to please reconsider your support for this bill. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to me, and I hope you do not support this act.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Carla Duran. Carla, you should see a prompt to unmute.
Good morning, everyone. It's no surprise to anyone that I strongly oppose this bill, but here to say that I think it's important we all remember that a regulatory body that aligns with promoters no longer serves the sport that it's entrusted to protect. And I think for the integrity of this commission and for the trust of the public at large, it's essential that all minutes, communications, and materials from this subcommittee be made publicly available. By engaging behind closed doors, this commission risks stepping beyond its regulatory mandate and entering into the realm of political lobbying. I think on the last call, that reference had already been made, that it felt like a lobbyist speaking to us. And that's an expectation that neither the athletes nor the public have of this body. You've provided zero on-the-record endorsements of names of people that were interviewed. And I love LL Cool J, but is this really the precedent that we're setting? And I'll add that the California State Athletic Commission exists to safeguard the integrity of the sport, protect athletes, and uphold public confidence, not to advance private or political agendas. I respectfully call for the subcommittee's records to be released immediately so that the public may see how decisions affecting this sport, and let's be honest, guys, it's affecting lives, because this is about life or death, are being made. Because transparency is not optional. It is the foundation of good governance. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next request for comment is from Kajan Johnson. Kajan, you should see a prompt to unmute.
Hi, thank you for taking the time to listen to me. My name is Kajan Johnson. I fought in the UFC for 5 years. I am also currently a licensed pro boxer and a coach that is also licensed in the state of California. I am voicing my strong my strong opinion that this UBO model will guarantee a monopoly within the sport of boxing. I've lived under the rule of the TKO company in the sport of MMA for a very long time, and I have seen the harm that it causes. You say that this will give people more choice, but monopolies don't actually give people more choice. The fact that this UBO model will allow for coercive exclusive contracts will guarantee that the TKO company is able to lock up all of the high-level talent under one banner. And then if a fighter wants to become high level, what are they going to do? They're going to have to fight for TKO, for Zuffa Boxing, in order to be recognized. I experienced this because I didn't want to sign with the UFC. I would have much rather signed with Bellator or any of the other competitors in the MMA space. Unfortunately, no one will know who I am unless I fight in the UFC, because the UFC has monopolized
15-second
all of the
warning.
top fighters. If you allow coercive contracts to come back into boxing under this UFC UBO model, you are monopolizing the sport, just like Don King. You cannot do this.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
your time. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a request for comment from Jeff Davidson. And Jeff, one moment while I find you in my list. All right, Dr. Jeff Davidson, you should see a prompt to unmute.
Yeah, thank you. I think everyone can hear me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the Commission for taking the time this morning to kind of hear everyone on both sides. I just wanted to give a quick background. Currently, I'm still practicing emergency trauma medicine in Las Vegas, Nevada. I have been since 1993, 94, and I participated with the Nevada State Athletic Commission for many, many years as a boxing ringside physician. And for the last 2 decades, I've been the chief medical physician for the Ultimate Fighting Championships involved with MMA. Really just speaking from a medical standpoint, I do think that the UBO will bring a high level of safety and high standards of care to these athletes. We provide additional protections involving enhanced comprehensive medicals. We always have a specific number of licensed physicians, which has been mentioned both at cage or ringside, both in the front and back. There's always a set number of ambulance units with specific EMS protocols, and the health coverage that we find any injuries is always covered and followed up by myself and a great team to make sure these athletes can continue in their sport for as long as possible. Part 2 is also just the anti-doping program, which has already had some attention discussed, and I would always state that is an excellent, we have an excellent program developed. I would hope that would continue in all programs. It just levels the playing field for all of these athletes. The last thing I will mention quickly in case individuals might not be aware is our long-term partnership with the Cleveland Clinic's Professional Athlete Brain Health Study. We've participated with Cleveland Clinic for over a decade, myself, multiple administrators, and with the Cleveland Clinic administrators and physicians, and it's been a great organization. Just in final, thank you very much for your time this morning. I would support the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act and ask the State of California Commission to also do so. And thank you all for your time this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Our next request for comment is from Rob Macy. Rob, you should see a request to unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'll start with who opposes this bill. The WBO, the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy Boxing, Lou DiBella, Hall of Fame promoter, 1,000 signers of our petition. I now want to ask, who did this subcommittee meet with? And where are the minutes? I expect those to be public. Is CZAC or the governor's office subject to any NDAs with Zuffa? Is this a Brown Act violation? On September 8th, you announced, and in fact, a motion was presented for this subcommittee to present the results at the December meeting. The December meeting was scheduled for December 8th. It's October 15th. And here you are scheduling this for a vote based upon that subcommittee's findings. I guess we were impossible to find because none of us were called. None. Yet we were the ones that objected on September 8th. We're easy to find. Andy Foster, we want to educate the public. You've done a lot of great things for the sport. Let's have a debate. You pick the media outlet. Let's do it. Me and you, let's debate. Let's educate the public on the Ali Expansion Act and this act, which is going to destroy the Ali Act protections. Let's debate. Are you willing to do it in public? Let's go, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next request for comment is from someone with Vinishma. So Vinishma, it's an email address. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Vinicius Queiroz. I've lived in California for more than 10 years, and I speak today on behalf of the MMA Fighters Association. I'm here because this Ali Act revival cannot pass. This bill would destroy the protection that boxers already have. There are no fighters, no promoters, no athletes asking for this change. This only push comes from the sponsor of this bill, the same organization that tomorrow, October 16, we start paying fighters their share of $375 million lawsuit. They still face 3 more collective lawsuits, all for the same reason, controlling rankings and titles while also controlling the fighters. If you control ranking title, you cannot control the fighters. That's not a sport, that's slavery. The history of sports shows the same pattern every time: corruption, coercion, and exploitation of athletes. When a promoter becomes a sanctioning body, athletes lose their voice and the sport loses its integrity. Let's be honest, the commission is discussing changes that are completely unnecessary. All of these so-called reforms can be handled under the current regulation, the ALI Act. This isn't reform, it's reinventing the problem. This commission has a voice today. You can protect the fighters or protect the system that keeps them quiet and controlled with low pay. Ignoring this conflict makes you a part of it. This bill is not a reform, it's regression. If it passes, you will remember as the moment when those responsible for protecting athletes choose to protect power instead. That's the truth. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, the next request for comment is from Colin, a Colin person with the number 210497. You'll see a request to unmute. Go ahead and click on that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, my name is Patrick Stumberg. I am a writer formerly with MMA Mania, currently with Bad Left Hook, and a former amateur official with South Texas Amateur Boxing. I have written multiple pieces on this bill. The one mostly about Dana White. I have an article in March about Dana White invasive species that I would highly recommend that mentions most of what I want to say, but I really just want to make clear. This is a power grab. This is a power grab by an individual who has so thoroughly corrupted a sport I loved and that I've spent years laboring to cover for less than minimum wage, that I had to quit due to sheer stress and misery. Dana White is an oligarch and a lying oligarch. He talks about, oh, we always do the best fighters against the best fighters. No, you don't. You give arbitrary title shots. Colby Covington got 3 in 5 fights. Bilal Muhammad had to go for a 10-fight unbeaten streak. You have Nazis on your roster, AJ Cunningham and Bryce Mitchell, which you keep there, but Bilal Muhammad isn't allowed to do the Palestinian flag. This is functionally mob rule. Fighters are pressured to take fights against opponents who missed weight. They are pressured to compete injured so they can actually get their medical care treated. I don't know if you saw on Saturday when Lucas Almeida came out with a broken hand and got knocked out in 2 minutes. The UFC is one of the most ruthlessly exploitative enterprises I've ever seen. Turki Al-Sheikh, an associate with Dana White, is also a micromanaging oligarch who has, among other things, slandered Tim Tszyu after his loss because he didn't bend the knee. This is a naked, blatant power grab that nobody that this would purportedly
15-second
benefit
warning.
supports. I think everybody speaking for it should be ashamed, and especially Big John McCarthy for accusing me of being a paid shill when I dedicated years of my life to trying to make this sport big because I loved it, and now I don't. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a Colin person with the number 201300. 2013, you should see a request to unmute.
Operator, I'm trying to track time. How many more speakers do we have?
All right, we keep having people raise their hand after you ask that. So let me check again. It looks like 10 now.
Okay.
Yep. And for whatever reason, 2013 is not unmuting, so they might be having difficulties. We'll go ahead with they can raise their hand if they'd still like to try. We'll go on to Tariq Safadine. Tariq, you should be able to unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So my name is Tariq Safadine. I'm a former professional MMA fighter, and I've been living here in California for the past 16 years. I've actually fought under the Zuffa model, and so I'm in a very good position to tell you how wrong this model is. Not only for the current structure in MMA, but for what TICO is trying to accomplish by amending the Ali Act through the Ali Revival Act. So if this bill passes, UBO will be, by default, become the sanctioning body and the promoter of the boxer and his opponent who signed with them under exclusive contract. Therefore, UBO will control the rankings and the title, which both fighters will be forced to compete under. This will bring their bargaining power close to zero, if almost in existence, because one promoter and one promoter only will control both sides of the equation. So please tell me how this is not anti-competitive for the sport of boxing, right? It's absolutely hostile to fighters and goes against everything the Ali Act was created for. Boxers and MMA fighters should compete freely and openly for titles without restraint because in boxing, promoter does not own titles and ranks. It's been a long-standing principle in boxing that you cannot have particular conflict of interest in anti-competitive structure that prevent boxers from competing freely and openly for titles. I fought under the UFC model and I was restrained to compete freely by signing exclusive contract with the same promotion that was promoting my opponent. How can you train in a facility? You guys are promoting the UFC PI. How can you train in a facility where your opponent is training at the same time under the same promoter? That doesn't make any sense. Okay.
15-second warning.
So they took away all my sponsorship opportunity, leaving me without any negotiating power while marketing me as the number 8 in the world under the non-independent ranking and title without minimal pay and no financial transparency. There is no financial transparency under the UBO model.
I'm sorry, your time is up. Next, we have a request for comment from Corey Rapax. Corey, one moment while I find you in my list. All right, Corey, you should see a request to unmute. Go ahead and click on that. All right, Corey Rapax, go ahead and click on the request to unmute. All right, Corey. We will come back to you. Go ahead and raise your hand if you want to comment when you get your audio worked out. Sarah McMahon is next. Sarah, you should be able to unmute. Go ahead and click on that.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sarah McMahon. I've lived in California for more than 8 years. I'm a former UFC title contender, and I've also had the pleasure of competing for sports that were very protected, unlike what is being proposed today, because I'm an Olympic silver medalist and 3-time world medalist in wrestling. I strongly oppose the Ali Act revival bill. They say that there's no changes that are going to happen, but I think that what it will do is design the core, or it'll destroy the core of the original Ali Act for fighters. So I support the Ali Expansion Act. The Ali Act was created to prohibit conflicts of interest, stop coercive contracts, and require full financial transparency so that fighters won't be left negotiating blind, which has happened to a lot of fighters. And even sometimes when I talk to other fighters, someone's getting this purse or that purse, and they're like, what? That low? So a lot of us are negotiating blind, even with managers. So it'll force promoters to disclose all event revenues and expenses, giving fighters at least a chance to understand what they are truly earning and risking their lives for. So without those disclosures, fighters have no leverage, they have no information, and they have no power. And promoters can manipulate the system behind closed doors. So as boxing promoter Eddie Hearn said, MMA fighters today negotiate without any understanding of the revenue being produced by their bouts. And boxing manager Rachel Denier echoed that same reality. Without financial transparency, even the world champions can get railroaded. This bill takes us backwards, right into the dark. It gives promoters full control over money, rankings, and exclusivity, creating the perfect conditions for a monopoly that silences a fighter's voice. And I'm not saying that 100% a monopoly is going to, appear tomorrow. I'm saying all it takes is for somebody corrupt that gets in that position. It's too much power to go in just one person's hands. And we have to just believe that they're altruistic. They have boxing's best interest and not their own pocket. So I know, I just don't believe that that will be the case. I think that there's too much that they can control, and I've seen so many things where fighters have fought injured. I've seen things where they were forced to go certain weight classes. They control our careers, and they don't even have to say it explicitly. We know.
15-second warning.
A lot of us have been threatened for things outside of the sport. No matter how good you are, a lot of us had our rankings lowered just because we weren't playing a certain game. A lot of people get higher rankings because they want them to be a title contender because they're more popular, not because they earned it. So these kind of things, they can't be in control of just one promoter.
I'm sorry, your time's up. All right, so our next request for comment is from AC. AC, you should see a request to unmute. AC, if you see a request to unmute, go ahead and click on that. Thank you, co-moderator. We'll give you one more try.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Chairman Villegas and members of the committee, thank you for taking the time to discuss this bill today. As a fan of boxing, born and raised in the Inland Empire of Southern California, I believe the California State Athletic Commission should support the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act because of the strong economic impact this bill will deliver. As someone born and raised in the IE, I've personally seen boxing gyms starting to pop up more and more, and this will lead to supporting this bill will lead to more boxing events in California and throughout the U.S. Beyond the venues that would host these boxing events, neighboring businesses such as restaurants, bars, and hotels would all see a spike in revenue due to the increase in consumer spending from local fans and out-of-town visitors, many of which would take place in California. I support the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act and ask that the California State Athletic Commission do so too.
All right, and we have Corey Rapak saying he has his audio fixed, so we'll go ahead and give him a second chance here. All right,
Can you hear
Corey.
me now?
Yes, we can.
I apologize for that. My name is Corey Rapiz. I'm a club promoter based out of Minnesota. I regularly send fighters to fight in California's jurisdiction, and I'm calling today to support this act. I don't discount any of the opinions that people against it are bringing today, but I'm just speaking about my perspective and the level of fighter that I work with. We've seen championship boxing hit a historical low point in the United States. We're off linear television for the first time in 80 years. In the last decade, based on reports, we've had over $1 billion in rights fees be paid out to promoters in the United States. What I do know is with all that money in rights fees, not a single company has made a significant investment into club or developmental boxing. These promoters are under no obligation to do so, but I think it speaks very loudly that boxing is the only sport with this level of rights payments that there's no investment in developmental whatsoever. As a club promoter, I work to develop regional boxers and hope to get them opportunities. I can tell you from my experiences that the current system as it is completely broken. The fighters I work with and fighters of that level to advance in their careers are lucky to get an offer to fight televised with 5 or 6 weeks notice. Otherwise, they're just stuck. And most club promoters can't afford to run them through the sanctioning body rankings of which have no independent oversight and are more of a relationship thing than a merit thing. Post-COVID-19.
15-second warning.
Well, in conclusion, I think the UBO platform, giving fighters a choice to fight either under the current Ali Act or willingly join a UBO is going to be best for boxing and give the fighters I work with an opportunity to advance based on their merit, not on relationships.
All right, your time is up. All right, next we have a request from calling user 503918. 503918, you should see a prompt to unmute. You can press *6.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, my name is Nick Corey.
Number 503918, we can hear you. Go ahead.
This is Nathan Corey. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I am a former UFC fighter. Currently chair of the Oregon State Athletic Commission. I think that's something that no one has asked. Why does
And just so you know, you're very soft. You might speak up.
why does Dana White, why does TKO need an exception to the Ali Act to perform this business? If they are truly offering a better way of doing things, they do not need an exception to federal law. Dana White himself had said the UFC works because it is a dictatorship. His solution to fixing boxing, again, Dana White's word, is to reduce the pay that the free market provides for boxers. These are the words out of his mouth. Dictator, he wants to reduce the pay. That is his way of solving the problem. Nothing that he wants to do can be done that needs an exception to it. If he wants to increase round pay, he can do that. If he wants to do drug testing, he can do that. Increase fighter safety, he can do that. None of these things require an exception to the Ali Act. Patrick English, one of the actual writers, the creators of the Ali Act, said as much, that Ali would be rolling over in his grave, as would John McCain. And Dana White is trying to give an exception to the Ali Act.
All right. Our next request for comment is from EM. EM, you should be able to unmute. All right, EM, if you see a prompt to unmute, go ahead and click on it. All right, we'll make a note and go on to the next request. Tom Loeffler. Tom, you should see a request to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate the time to address the California State Athletic Commission. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and I've been in boxing for the last 33 years. First, as a manager, managing world champions such as Kevin Kelly, Shane Mosley, James Toney, Layla Ali, and then, after that, as a promoter, having the honor of promoting some of the biggest fights in California, including Vitaly Klitschko's heavyweight world championship fight, many Triple G fights in California, and most recently as the owner of 360 Promotions, doing smaller shows on UFC Fight Pass. I strongly support this bill because, as Commissioner Gruelle said, this will raise the floor for boxers. As a manager, originally, I really was looking out for the best interest of the fighters, and with the additional medical coverage, the additional minimum testing for health and safety concerns, and raising the purse amounts, I think this benefits the fighters themselves. And I had the honor of working with Muhammad Ali and meeting and spending time with Lani Ali, and I know she's fiercely protective of Muhammad's brand and reputation, and she would never endorse a bill that she thought would affect that. So I think for all the positives involved in the bill, and as Nick Khan said, it brings television revenue back into the sport of boxing. One of the younger fighters said he was concerned about boxing leaving, but with the advent of this new TV deal that Zuffa is working on, we've lost HBO, Showtime, ESPN, USA Boxing, as well as Epix. So I think this not only helps the fighters, but also the economics of the
15-second
sport of
warning.
boxing. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
All right, the next request for a comment is from Brock Shardine. Brock, you should be able to unmute.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, no, I strongly oppose this bill. A little disappointed that we're not having this meeting in December like we discussed in the last meeting. You guys are talking about raising the floor. But when someone mentioned not, it doesn't touch the ceiling, but we're raising the floor. That's kind of sad in my opinion. Like we're here to help fighters. I've fought professionally for 10 years. I fought in the UFC. I was part of those negotiations, which was zero negotiation. I literally took a fight on 2-week notice and said, take it or leave it. Like that was my negotiation. But with that being said, like we're here to change the sport. I mean, no one has talked about all the lawsuits that are going on right now. I mean, I'm literally getting paid twice as much from this settlement lawsuit than I ever made in my whole fighting career. You guys are here to help, fighters grow and the sport grow. Like if we ever want to be like the NBA, the NFL, any of that stuff, we can't have this pass. We need to uplift the sport, and it's going to start with a lot more than just raising the floor, right? We got to shoot for the moon, and if we fall short, we're among the stars, right? We got to do more than just that. It's nice window dressing saying that, oh yeah, we're having round minimums and better insurance and stuff like that. Yeah, like everyone mentioned before, we don't need to try to pass this in order to do that. Like
15-second warning.
I really hope you guys do some more research and see all the lawsuits that are going on and seeing all the stuff that MMA FA is trying to pass to better the sport. And I hope you guys can do the same and help better the sport.
Thank you.
All right, the next request for comment is from Colin number 949372. You should see a request to unmute. Press *3 to unmute. Or sorry, *6.
Any
All right.
other comment, people for comment, moderator?
We have 3 more.
Okay.
Alessandro Gilkey. So Alessandro, we'll go with you. If you see a prompt to unmute, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I've been managing both boxers and MMA fighters for 23 years now, and I can tell you I'm very strongly against this bill. The Ali Act is very helpful in negotiations because you can't find out how much money is actually on the table for these fighters. If you undo that, it takes away a lot of the negotiating power for the fighters. I think there's been a lot of good points already made by Sarah McMahon, Brock, Tarek, Gabriel, Rob Macy, and Nate. I would echo those same things to them. This is a huge conflict of interest. You can't have a promoter in control of titles and rankings. Obviously, that causes a lot of problems. And we already know Zuffa's going to do a Zuffa belt. The Ali Act keeps us from having a monopoly. So it's very important to keep it in place as it is. We don't need to change anything about it. You can add the $150 around, the insurance, all that stuff is great. But the problem is the UBO. So once again, I ask you to strongly reconsider and take a look at the lawsuits that are going on now against the UFC. We see how they're taking advantage of the fighters. You need to reach out to the MMA FA, talk to them. It's very curious that you haven't reached out to the MMA FA yet. Why haven't you done that yet? That's very odd.
All right, our next request for comment is EM coming back. We'll see if EM has fixed their audio. EM, if you see a prompt to unmute, go ahead and click on it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you for taking the time to discuss the bill and also give public comment for us to speak. I definitely believe the commission should support this act. Really, being honest, boxing is on the decline. A sport that used to be in the top 3 in America is now not even top 10. People talk about the monopoly and the restrictions, but let's be honest here, there needs to be a new model to revive this sport and attract fans. And what this bill does is allow for a model to enter boxing and produce new events alongside the current system of the sanctioning bodies. I support this act and I ask the commission to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, our next request for comment is from Hugo. Hugo, you should see a prompt to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you for having me. I'm Hugo Viana. I'm a former UFC fighter. And when I see everybody talking about this, I resume it like this. It's much harder, super much harder to keep a democracy, to keep a federation, a tripod form where you have independent powers. So the idea of Alekti is trying to bring this, and much easier to build like a communism party, all right, or a totalitarian party where you control all the powers and you don't give choice for fighters. I remember when I was fighting, UFC just had the agreement with the Reebok, and they was telling me, okay, you're gonna make much more money with the Reebok agreement. And I said, yeah, but what about the other fighters that make much more money? And I said, no, but for you and for everybody, the minimum gonna be better. But when I see all those stars like Vitor Belfort and other that had bigger and big sponsors, so somehow we are treated like a child. We don't know how to make a business. And when I see people arguing against against the LE Act, it's because they difficult in negotiating. Yes, it's much difficult to negotiate when you are in a free format. So when you have the monopoly, this guy's gonna control everything, and fighters won't have any leverage to negotiate. And what about rankings? So I have to sell. I have to work by trash talk or work by like a WWE format in order to keep my job. So I'm gonna be employed, or I am my own company. So with this idea, especially come from Zufa, which they have all these monopoly, all these coercive format. They are bringing this new idea. So we are in America, not in China. China, everybody has houses, but if you go to Russia, it's the same. So totalitarian is much easier to be totalitarian. They make business, but you have to deal with
15-second
lobby.
warning.
You have to deal with politics, not with a ranking system, with sport. Sport is not about politics only. No. So that's my idea. I believe we must keep the LE Act in the original format, and the sport must be
I'm sorry,
people
your
from
time is
the.
up. All right. And the next comment is from calling user 949372. You can press *6 to unmute if you see your request to unmute.
Can you hear
9493.
me?
Yes, we can.
Good day, all, and thanks for having me. This is Juanito Ibarra. I've been around the sport. I'm from San Pedro, California. I've been around the sport well over 43 years. And I just have to express that I strongly disagree, and I do not provide this act. I was one of the individuals that the commission subcommittee discussed, and we went well into over 2.5 hours, and I could not give them anything positive. I just couldn't. I was asked to give some opinions on it. If there was something that would provide fighters a benefit, and it's a different bill. So as much as I could, I just can't. My integrity is on the line for fighters. Everything that Rob Macy, the MMAFA, Vinny, Nate Quarry, man, all these great speakers, Brock, this 17-year-old kid. Listen, he's a 17-year-old kid, Gabriel, and he gets it. He don't want to be slaved in the future. You know, it's ludicrous that this wasn't trying to come together with all parties to adopt a new law or laws, if you will, to different commissions to support moving forward. No, this is fast track through politics and money. Dana and the UFC and they're not promoters. They're political. They're politicians. How about this kid Brian Ortega? To all you doctors, he went into a coma because he was dehydrated trying to make weight in China. How come you guys haven't addressed anything like that? The California and other promoters that slave these fighters to sell tickets to cover their own purse. Because you guys keep talking about the $150 increase. It's not even the floor. Okay? How about them things? How about that this new Revival Act going to get rid of managers to negotiate the worth of the fighters? They can't even or won't even be able to negotiate their own athletic wear. The corner rights are
15-second
going to be
warning.
taken away from licensees. I strongly oppose 4624, and God bless you all for having me. And
Thank you.
support MMA-FA's movement.
All right, the next comment is from Colin number, oh, they just 416463. Hold on while I find you. Okay, if you press *6 to unmute. 416463. If you see a request to unmute, press *6 to unmute. All right, looks like you're unmuted. Calling user 416463. Okay, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Hello, this is Carlos Newton.
We can hear you now.
Hi, my name is Carlos Newton, former UFC welterweight champion and a member of MMA-FA, the Mixed Martial Arts Fighters Association. I was instrumental in getting the first lawsuit started because from early on in my career, I realized this was not sport. This was professional wrestling where athletes hit one another for real and do not compete. The UFC knew what they were doing from the start. When Lorenzo Fertitta, as a former athletic commissioner, bought the company, they knew that unifying a title and being able to circumvent or get an excuse from the athletic commissions, allowing them to be both promoter and sanctioning body in one, would give them a monopoly, only if they invested enough money to do so. They are going to do the same thing to boxing. This is not a decline in boxing. Over the years, it has been a decline in competition amongst American boxers to do well on the international stage since Don King was no longer allowed to do exactly what the UBO is doing. Except now the UBO does not have to bribe a sanctioning body in order to do so. Internationally, boxing has grown as a sport. If you want to revive boxing in America, you need to do a better job of promoting young boxers, doing better at the amateur level, promoting and increasing the growth of the sport and increasing competition amongst the sport, not stripping it out. Eventually, you will see boxers become clowns, the same way MMA fighters have to beg in the ring, get on their hands and knees, or kiss Dana White's ass, or kiss a ring to get just equal and fair treatment as an athlete that is experienced by other athletes in other
15-second
sports.
warning.
You're going to turn this sport into a sham and sell out the fighters that you are supposed to represent and protect. MMA.
Thank you.
All right. And our next request for comment is from Matthew Brown. Hold on a moment, Matthew, and you should see a request to unmute.
Yo, I'm here. You got me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't even really know where to start, but I've fought in the UFC for 15 years. Had a good time there, actually. Made a little bit of money, but you know, the fact is, like, I don't know, like, if there's anything I can say because it feels like this is some sort of joke. Like, you guys are just supporting this no matter what. I don't know if y'all bought and paid for, whatever. Like, John McCarthy, what the hell? Like, nobody, this is my point, is like, nobody's ever been on our side since the beginning. Like, so I fought for 15 years. No one ever fought for me. My manager didn't fight for me. You know, I go talk, try to negotiate. No one ever worked for me. And I thought that was what athletic commissions were for, but I don't feel none of y'all working for fighters. If you see all the fighters coming on to this little meeting you're having here, that's like, it's got to be a joke, right? Because we all come on and oppose it, but you're actually, I don't think you're going to listen to a thing we say. My God, like it's really frustrating. Like we just want someone on our side. MMA FA is the only people that's ever been on our side. We're not even asking for anything crazy. Well, all we want is the basic protections that the Ollie Act provides. Like we need it in MMA. Financial transparency, you know. How about like no conflicts of interest, like the promoter controlling the rankings and the title, which is like ridiculous. That you like, how would you? That's so ridiculous that you guys would support that. The sponsorships, like we haven't had sponsors forever since Reebok. The drug testing, I mean, what kind of
15-second warning.
what kind of fucking joke is this? Like what did Brock Lesnar do to Mark Hunt? And like they knew exactly what happened, or what Connor's trying to do right now. Like if you want to protect fighter safety, allowing promoters to determine who and when you
I'm
fight is the
sorry, your
greatest
time is
threat.
up. All right, and just a gentle reminder for the sake of public listening to this meeting, if you can please refrain from swearing. It's fine to disagree, but if you can just use more professional language, that would be helpful. And
Thank
our
you,
next,
moderator.
you're welcome. Our next speaker is Forrest Griffin. I know you tried before. We hope you have your audio fixed now. So Forrest, you should see a prompt to unmute.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chairman and esteemed members of the committee. First off, yeah, I'm Forrest Griffin. I work here at the UFC. I'm going to make that clear. I am in favor of this bill because of some of the protections it affords the athletes. You notice the $150 per round fee. That's not, it's not great, but it's also not enough to hinder promoters from trying to get in the game. So again, there has to be a balance in these things, and I appreciate the, peg to inflation 2%. The other thing I would say is that I've seen the onboarding of the athlete insurance policy in the UFC. Is it a shame it didn't happen sooner? Of course. But is it changing athletes' lives now? Yes. So I think for boxers to have out of competition insurance, that will, that'll improve their ability to train, their confidence in training, and, should they get injured, then definitely their lives. It'll get them back where they need to be. Drug testing, the more drug testing that the UFC has added, the better the sport has become, the more pure it has become. It's really, the drug testing in the sport of MMA, due to, the UFC is changed the sport. Overall, the bill is aimed at protecting fighters and increasing what they have. And I'll even agree that it is sort of a ground floor, and that, in the future we should maybe strive to do better. But it's important that we do put these kind of roadblocks in place. It's, you want to increase fighter safety. This bill will do that. And that is it. Thank you guys for your time. And thank you for, again, this platform.
Thank you.
All right, our next request for comment is from David Goodfriend. David, you should see a request to unmute. All right, David, we'll send you another request. If you see a request to unmute, go ahead and click on it. David Goodfriend. All right, David, we're going to go to the next commenter. Oh, it looks like you got it. David, you're unmuted. Can you hear us? Okay, if you're talking, we can't hear you. We can turn on the chat if you want to type your comment there. Right. David, if you want to go to the chat and type your comment, you can try that. We'll give you a moment.
Or just comment for or against the bill.
Yes, we can hear you now. Please
Hello,
continue.
now?
Yes, we can hear you. David, we can hear you. All right.
Moderator, can you just ask him to put in the chat if he's for or against the bill? That will suffice.
David, go ahead if put in the chat if you're for or against. We'll leave it open a moment.
And if we can make that the priority on all remaining
Oh,
comments.
okay, yes, if they can just state whether they're for or against. Next,
Yes.
we'll have Patrick Berry. Patrick, you should see a request to unmute.
Hello. Hello.
We can hear you.
Okay, cool. Not sure how long I was in the UFC. It was either 4 years or 11. I have trouble remembering that all the time. I'm trying to tag on to other comments that were made about the fighters needing protection. Hearing all the, it's kind of take it or leave it is what it turns out to be. So because of the take it or leave it scenario that the fighters tend to be in, that's why a lot of, I would say more than 50% of all the fighters that get into fights are getting into fights already injured because we have no means of taking care of ourselves. The insurance thing is tough to come around. Deductibles, what does that word mean? Like, it's a bunch of things like that where you get in and you fight, hurt, perform, and then you get the UFC to pay for your medical expenses after. Now, the thing that comes along with that is that if you become injured during a training camp before a fight and you announce that to the UFC or to whoever and let them know what it is that's going on, you are subject to getting cut at moments. It's a take it or leave it. That's why so many people, like someone said earlier, the guy who fought this weekend with the already broken hand and then lost within 2 minutes, this happens a lot because there's nothing there's not really much out there for it. And like I said before, it's either you take this fight or you don't. And then if you don't, what else are you going to do? It's a tough spot for a lot of fighters to be in, like myself. Like I said, having somewhat trouble figuring out how long ago was my last fight. I don't know. My wife says it was a while ago. 2014. Okay. Yeah, no, it's just that's the, I almost got caught off guard just now. It's like, this is just, there's
15-second warning.
a lot of fighters fight injured because we can't do anything about it. And if we don't take the fight, we have no income coming in whatsoever, because the only way that you can make an income while being injured is once you cross that threshold. If you can't make it to the fight
I'm
at
sorry,
all,
your time is up. Next comment is from Ray Elby. Ray, you should see a prompt to unmute.
Hi, I just want to thank you guys for letting all the fighters come on here and have an opportunity to give their side of an opinion on whether they're for or against the bill. Me personally, I would say that I'm against it. I've got about 20 years of professional experience and I've fought all over the world. And giving the promoter the ability to control the belt, for my own situation with my wife, Chris Cyborg, she's been undefeated since 2018, and her last fight was #1 versus #2 in the entire world. And she won that fight. And even though at this time the UFC does not have a featherweight division, the platform, the size, the exposure, the brand of the UFC is as such that I think the common fan views Chris Cyborg not as the #1 ranked female fighter in the world at 145 pounds, simply because she does not own the UFC championship belt at that weight. It's no secret that she went 6-1 in the promotion. She lost her second to last fight to Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes did not defend that belt at 145 pounds for 2 years. Chris Cyborg went on to fight Julia Budd. She went on to fight Larissa Pacheco, who were #1, #2, #3 at the time of the fights. And when you give the promoter the ability to control the rankings and control the belts, you give them the ability to force you to sign a new long-term agreement for what could be below market value. And I can just say from our own experience,
15-second warning.
That's not a good thing. You already saw the UFC, Zuffa Boxing, able to promote Canelo Crawford successfully, biggest event. They don't need to own the belt in order to be able to do that. And I think that takes away a lot of rights from the fighter.
I'm sorry, your time is up. All right, so we have Todd Duffy next. Todd, you should see a request to unmute.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
This is Todd Duffy. I fought in the UFC. Losing the Ali Act takes away control from the fighters. I fought on the first main event. I fought on the first UFC fight card with UFC uniforms as a main event, which was my first main event fight. I ended up losing sponsorship opportunity upwards around $150,000 to $100,000. Walked away from that fight on the main event with $10K. So I oppose this bill because it takes away control of the fighter. It takes away control from the fighters and puts it in the hands of others. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I see 2 more raised hands, but they are from people who have already spoken. And for the sake of time, we're only allowing people to speak once per agenda item. So I think now is the time to check our physical locations and see if there's anyone there that would like to comment.
The commission publicly notified office has no public commenters present.
Thank you.
Each
Thank you,
commissioner,
moderator.
each commissioner, do you have anybody public in any of your locations that wish to speak? If each commissioner could say
No.
yes or no?
No.
No.
No. No.
Thank you all.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who spoke and provided their public comment for their passion, for their input, for their sincere concerns, whether you're for or against this issue. I think that's the beauty of our sport, is that we're so passionate and we have different points of view. And we appreciate your taking time out of your day today to be with us. The question I have, Andy, for you is, before we go back to the motion, some people mentioned a fighter fighting with a broken hand before going into the fight. Where was that fight? Where did that fight take place? Do you know?
I do not know, sir.
Okay, well, I know it wasn't in California, and we wouldn't have allowed that to happen, correct? If a fighter had a broken hand before the fight, he wouldn't have been allowed to fight regardless, correct?
May have been in Brazil, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I just want to have clarity on that.
Maybe Rio, if that happened.
Okay. Thank you for the comment. We have a motion. We have a second. Mr. Foster, do you want to take the vote?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Hendrickson? Commissioner Hendrickson, you're on mute, sir.
Sorry. Aye. Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Fiore?
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. DeMars?
Aye.
Commissioner Gruelle?
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Williams?
Aye.
Chairman Villegas?
Aye.
Sir, the motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much for a very robust discussion. Commissioner Gruelle, you mentioned you had a second motion as well?
Well, now that we've had this conversation, and I guess with noticing requirements, we might want to have a fuller discussion. But there was a lot of issues that came up during Dr. DeMars and mine's work with Andy and members of the public, and I would like to perhaps, if it's okay with you, recommend that Andy, with your okay, adds on to maybe our December meeting a discussion about the sanctioning bodies. And, there has been some issues that come up, such as amending rating criterias, cap or limiting sanctioning fees to ensure fairness for athletes and promoters. We talked about earlier waiving belt fees. There are things like this that are practices right now that are outside of what the OLLI Act currently or in the future will address. That still that a number of us have been concerned about learning about and want to see if there's things the commission can do in California to address some of these issues. So my request to you, Chairman, would be to let Mr. Foster come back in a future meeting and go through some of these concerns, and then we can decide what to do with those concerns as a group at a later date.
Very well. That's fine. Yes. Andy, we can come back on those issues that Commissioner
Yes,
raised.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Patricia, the agenda, please. I'm trying to catch up on what's next. Okay. Were there any public comments on items not on this agenda? Any public comments not regarding the Muhammad Ali Revival Act?
All right, this is a moderator. If you have a comment that is not related to agenda item 2 that we've already discussed, please raise your hand. Well, you'll have 2 minutes, and I see we have a raised hand from calling user 949372. You should see a request to unmute. Go ahead and hit *6. You're,
Hello,
yes, we can hear you.
this is Juanito Ibarra again. I just want to know on the December meeting if the MMAFA and their members could address the sanctioning body and have a voice at that meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next request for comment is from Alessandro Gelke. Alessandro, you should see a request to unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to say I think it's a travesty that you're pushing this
Again,
through.
this is public comment not related to this.
I'm sorry, but you're going to have to talk to the MMAFA at some point. You can't simply ignore them forever.
Okay, thank you, moderator.
Yes. All right. Any other comment for anything on the for items not on the agenda? So not agenda item 2. I see Eric Hamadi or Hamidi. Eric, you should see a request to unmute.
Yes, the only thing I wanted to add was that I'm a California resident and I apologize for my bad connection. I figured it would be fine. I'm sorry for that, but I appreciate you guys giving me the time to express my thoughts, and I hope good decisions can be made moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I see no more requests for public comment. So I return the floor back to you.
Thank you very much, operator. Now we're going to go into closed session, but I want to thank everybody for coming on to today's call.